Good morning, folks. I hope you are all having a smashing day, and thank you very much for joining us this morning. And I'm Tony Stevenson. I'm sure one or two of you may have listened to a webinar with me on it before. So if you have, welcome back. And if not, then you're, I'm sure, in for a treat this morning. So if you want to, while we're just getting started, you want to pop in the chat box where you are, where you're listening in from today. We'd really appreciate that. It's always nice to know where everybody is dialing in from, and we can get started with that. Smashing. So before we get into the meat of the session, just a few bits of general housekeeping and a few bits and pieces for you to know. So we're in Bookkeeper Boost Week this week. So we have had our sessions this morning on this week, sorry, already on pricing on Monday, and then sustainability on Tuesday. Thanks again, Penny, for joining us twice. And then revitalizing your tech stack yesterday with Johan and Jem. So today we will be talking about squeezing the best out of your brand, and then we've got one final session tomorrow, which is our live panel while we're bananas about the future of bookkeeping. So if you haven't joined all those sessions and you would like to join those sessions, then please do scan the QR code on the screen, and then you'll be able to take you through. Just check on that. Brilliant. There we go. Excellent. So I'll just give everyone a couple more seconds to just get that done, and then we'll get cracking. Excellent. So Bookkeeper Boost Week Thursday session, how to squeeze the best out of your brand. So I will be presenting the session today. So for those of you that are big fans of LinkedIn, just a little heads up, we have got a LinkedIn giveaway. So if you want to head over to our page and comment on our giveaway post to enter the competition, there is a QR code later in the slides that you can scan in order to take you straight there. But if you want to do that now, then you're more than welcome to, and I'm sure that Ruth on the flight deck won't mind putting a link to that post in the chat at some point as well. So I shall introduce myself. So my name is Tony Stevenson. I am the Senior Digital Enablement Manager here at FreeAgent. So my sort of potted history, I spent the first 10 years of my career bouncing around the profession, picked up my ACA along the way, trained with the Big Four, a bit of time in industry, and then a sort of mid-sized firm for the last 3 years of my practice time. I've now been in the cloud accounting space for about 10 years, the software world, a couple of years at Xero, again, coming on for 7 years at FreeAgent, a year out traveling, and a couple of other bits and pieces. Get involved in all sorts of stuff in my role, so integrations, doing stuff like this, talking on stages, and that kind of thing, and then helping to sort of bring the practice angle to FreeAgent as well. But today's not really about me. Today is about our wonderful panelists and guests. So I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Penny, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself first, just tell us a little bit about your background and why bookkeeping, that'd be fabulous.
Yeah, so I started bookkeeping actually when I was 13. So my dad had his own business and I needed extra pocket money. So I started going into the business after school every day. And my dad had lots of trade customers, so I was writing up the ledger every day, good old-fashioned big red books, showing my age here. So this is before Sage Desktop had even been around, so proper old-fashioned paper bookkeeping. I worked through doing that, and then my dad's accountant offered me some work experience. They were short-staffed over the summer holidays, and I was fed up working in the family business and wanted a proper job. So I went and worked for them over the summer. Sadly, my mum died from cancer, so I didn't go to uni, and the accountant offered me a full-time role with them, which I took, trained with them, doing ACCA exams, decided I didn't really like audit, just putting everything apart for everybody else. So I moved into industry, worked in various different roles until I worked my way up to assistant management accountant for Texaco UK, working in Canary Wharf. And commuting up to London with babies and small children wasn't really the lifestyle I was looking for. So having taken a little bit of a break out, my husband spotted an advert in the local paper looking for people to teach at the college. And I was like, I couldn't teach, I don't know this well enough. And he's like, you've passed your exams, go for it. So needs must, we needed the money. I applied to the college, and the following week found myself in front of a class full of students on a master's degree, teaching finance for non-finance managers, which was really scary until I realised that I knew more than they did, and that was fine. Yeah, they
Always
they
nice
didn't
moment,
ask
isn't
anything
it?
too creative. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, actually, I know more than the students. That's cool. I went and I taught AAT levels 2, 3, and 4. I taught year 1 of ACCA, year 1 of CIMA, and we regularly rolled out. I went into local businesses, taking the module that was part of the master's degree of finance for non-finance managers, and we would do that as a one-day workshop for local companies, which I actually really enjoyed. It was great finding out more about different companies, learning about the management role. And I think that's given me a really good insight for the work that I now do as a bookkeeper, working with companies. So there's been a lot of training in my history.
It's funny when you look back and that old Steve Jobs.
It got to the point my children were growing up and going out teaching evening classes, and Saturday mornings was yeah. And somebody asked me if I could, or if any of my students could give a hand with a bookkeeping backlog that they had. And I was like, oh, never mind the students, I'll come and do it. I've got ballet lessons to pay for and things like that. So, yeah, did a bit of bookkeeping with a friend, needed a practice license. Couldn't do it with my ACCA because I hadn't quite finished my ACCA exams. I had 3 exams left on my finals to do, which children had got in the way of. So I joined ICB, got my practice license with them. And the rest, as they say, is history. It jogged along very nicely as a very much part-time job until I got divorced. And then everyone was, are you going to get a proper job? And I've got a proper job. I just need a few more clients. So I grew the business, outgrew Penelope Allard Bookkeeping Services, struggled to rename it, and found Philippa. And that really brings us to where we are today and what we're going to talk about. So since then, I've won 3 Luca Awards, new practice, social media, large practice, and this year I was a finalist for the Accounting Excellence Awards in the sole practitioner category. So not bad in 3 years since we've rebranded.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. None too shabby. We, as you say, we will get into the stories around that sort of point of inflection as we move into it. But Philippa, if you wouldn't mind giving us your background for those of our audience who aren't familiar with you.
Sure. So. Yeah, I've been racking my brains about where it all started, actually. So, so go back 30 years, and I started my career in marketing, sales and marketing for an electronic publishing company, which basically meant CD-ROM. So that's how long ago it was. I spent a lot of time traveling around the world, showing off this new kind of product. So I would be in Vegas doing kind of sales and marketing, attending lots of the conferences around the world, really. Then I moved into market research, and that's really where I started to understand about kind of people and the human side of marketing, and worked on a lot of brands, British Airways, Green and Blacks, you name it, I probably worked on it. And I spent quite a bit of time there until I moved to the dark side, client side, and I moved and worked for Levi's in Brussels, the EMEA kind of offices there, and spent a lot of time working around the consumer there and why they loved Levi's. And I worked on the retail side of things as well. And then I moved to Ford Motor Company and worked in the innovation team there. Again, it was always the sort of customer at the heart of all of the innovation we did. So we worked on the new Fiesta, we worked on some new commercial vehicles, traveled the world there really, moved to Tetley Tea, where I was part of the advertising there for Tetley. And then I have been in advertising as well. So all of this really feeds into my understanding of big brands and, how a brand really needs to interact with its customer or its client from a bookkeeper perspective. And I really look at the human side of that. So what is it about the bookkeeper that is really unique? How can we sort of build a brand and a story around that? And in so doing, we look at what the ideal client is, what makes that bookkeeper and that business unique, create their brand, and then hopefully target and inspire that ideal client, build value around that, and have more of the clients that they really want and fewer of those that they don't. And that's essentially it. So come up to the present day, where it was probably 3 years ago now, Penny, wasn't it, where we had our first conversation about wanting to build your brand. And the rest, as they say, is history, but we'll go into that in a bit more once I sort of go back to you, Tony.
Interesting that all three of us, to some degree, me probably less so than our wonderful panelists, have got some background in sort of large corporates. I spent a couple of years working for BlackBerry, just as everybody suddenly realised that they needed a smartphone. I know, honestly, some of the things you look back on, right? And I remember sitting in the room with this guy called Tim, and he was our sort of VP of tax at the time. And he like first week I was there, and he gave me this sort of spiel about, he was a really, really smart guy. He'd gone on to be a partner at EY and all sorts in Canada. And he said, we're not worried about the iPhone. Because we've got the business angle and they've got the social angle, and we're quite happy with that. And like Google, Android, HTC, we don't see that as a threat at all.
Yeah, funny you should say that, Tony, because I worked for Nokia at the same time.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Cool. So a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll be getting into the session shortly. So just today's agenda, housekeeping, getting started, set the scene, a little bit of background and context on today's topic, and then the meat of the session, and then we'll be talking about the evolution of personal brand and how that's taken shape with Penny and with Wild Bookkeeping, and how Philippa has helped with that process. And then how we work these is there'll be a FreeAgent demo at the end. So for those of you that have not seen FreeAgent before or not seen it for a little while and want to just sort of just reconnect with the platform or connect with it for the first time, we'll show sort of 10 minutes of just look and feel of FreeAgent for those of you that like to do it. And we find that kind of works the best because we've got current FreeAgent partners and people that aren't FreeAgent partners yet on this call today. Housekeeping, I can see a couple of the questions have been asked already. So there will be a recording of today's session and it will be sent out to you afterwards. So if you have to drop off, that's fine. It's always best a live experience, but we understand people have got lives, that's no problem. It is CPD accredited and you'll get a link within the follow-up email to say, yes, here you go, collect your CPD points. 1 point for 1 hour, so you'll get a point for today's session. If you've got Q&As that you would like someone from FreeAgent to respond to, I can see a few of you have found the Q&A section. Please use the Q&A section. If you'd just like to sort of chat amongst yourselves and pose any questions to the other attendees or anything like that, then use the attendee chat function. The trouble with the attendee chat function is that if you ask a question in there and there's a bit of chat going on, that question can get lost. Whereas if you ask it in the Q&A, then it will get answered by somebody from the team. So we have a polite and respectful policy. It doesn't happen very often, but it has happened once or twice where we've had people that woke up on the wrong side of the bed and were a bit grumpy in the chat and sort of disrupted it for other individuals. You'll get a warning. If you can't behave, then we'll kick you out. I really still can't believe I have to say that on accounting software or webinar, but we always like to put it in there just to make sure everyone's comfortable that we're all here to learn. No one's got all the answers, but there'll be plenty of stuff that we'll pick up along the way. And there will be some polls as we go through, so please participate in the polls. Be much appreciated. It's just a little bit about FreeAgent. So we're award-winning accounting software. We're famous for our support. We're very proud of that and very proud of our 97% satisfaction rate with our support. We're also very proud of our mobile app. We're a modest bunch, but we would quietly consider it to be the best in class. We will talk a little bit about favorite FreeAgent feature later. So if you are a FreeAgent partner and have a bit of a think about that, then we'll drop that in as we move through. So we are owned by NatWest Bank, or the Royal Bank of Scotland Group, and we are free for users of FreeAgent who have a NatWest Business Bank account. So for as long as you retain the NatWest Business Bank account or a Metal Bank account, RBS or Ulster, then you can have FreeAgent for free. So optional add-ons may be chargeable. So we do have a couple of add-ons that do have a charge when you get to certain levels of use. So our Amazon add-on and our Smart Capture add-on, which you get to certain levels of use, there may be a charge depending on how much you need to use it each month. We are HMRC recognised, MTD compatible, and we're well on the way for the next round of MTD ITSA as well. So we're not here to talk about that today, but just as a reassurance, we're on that one as we move forward. So before we get into it, so spotlight feature of the day is the bulk bank feed reconsent. So for anybody that has used this, the path to this feature coming to life was there were some changes in and around open banking, which meant that you had to refresh your bank feed credentials every 90 days and you had to re-enter the details. They changed the rules slightly on that so that you didn't have to re-enter them. You just had to confirm that they were still correct. And then we recently built a feature which just allows you to hit one button, and on behalf of all your clients, you can reconsent that they are correct. I really enjoy the GIF as you hit the button and it just goes and aligns all the bank feeds to the same date, as you can see just now. Penny, thoughts on your favourite FreeAgent feature, and the attendees, if you want to pop in the chat your favourite FreeAgent feature as well, we'd really appreciate that. Just a one-liner.
Yeah. I think it's really great that for clients can just upload receipts directly into the apps. So I use FreeAgent a lot for my smaller clients. I've got some larger ones on there as well, and there's some great integrations coming now with FreeAgent. So being able to connect Zen and Connect and Swift gives us tremendous power to get value out of the software. But for clients, they find it really easy just to put their receipts straight into that software. So for smaller clients who are reluctant to pay on software, they can have their NatWest Bank account, get FreeAgent, upload their receipts, and everything's all in one place for them. So for those smaller clients, they really find it incredibly valuable. And we're actually now offering a service with Zen and Connect. So we're doing quarterly reviews and having more regular catch-ups. So this means that for clients that previously might have been a shoebox client, they can have a really good service and really get to grips with their numbers. And I think for smaller businesses, as they start to grow, that's really important. So they've got everything all in one place.
Thank you kindly. We got votes from Susanna for the mobile app, from Claire. Hi Claire. It's not a webinar unless Claire's on it. For the mobile app, Louise for the mobile app. So mobile app winning today. Another little one we put in as well is change of year end as well. So you can now change your clients' year ends within FreeAgent as well, which is a recent feature. And really pleased to hear that you are getting plenty out of the Zen and Connect integration, because that was one of our big ones from this year, and helps to align to our strategy to build out our ecosystem, which has been going pretty well. Thank you, folks.
Zen and Connect, that's a fantastic link really with Zen and Connect. It makes a really big difference, particularly for those smaller clients who might be doing some of their own bookkeeping, or if they're tempted to tamper and try and post things themselves. It's great having Zen and just to be able to catch and mop those things up. So it's lovely to see all these integrations coming now with the software. It's making it extremely powerful, and means we can give a really good service.
We would really like to, we're exploring at the moment how we can deepen the Zen and Connect integration, particularly in that triumvirate with Client Engager as well. So how could we potentially use some of the data that we've got to help build out something for Zen and Connect FreeAgent customers that perhaps they don't get somewhere else? So we'll be picking that up with Gareth and the team over at Zen and sort of over the coming months as well. So I might call on you for that one, Penny, for some insights, if you don't mind. So first poll, if you're a bookkeeper in practice and would like to find out more about becoming a FreeAgent partner, then click yes. I appreciate that we are fairly early in the webinar, but we always know that there are people who catch the first 20 minutes and then some fire starts and they've got to go in their inbox, metaphorically. So if you would like somebody to get in contact with you, then please click yes. And if you're already a FreeAgent partner, then you can click C, and it will flag to your account manager that you'd like somebody to give you a call and have a nice little catch up. So I'll give everyone a moment or two longer just to just to submit that. So there's no pressure or obligation, folks. It's just we found that what would happen would be we'd have folks on the webinar, and then we'd have lots of people sort of like using different methods to get in touch with us afterwards. So we felt that if we run a poll and everybody says who's interested, they'd like to do that, then we can just sort of sweep it up and systemize it all, so everybody gets the same call at the same day from the same people, the same team, so that no one's left out or left hanging. So so just a couple of the other comments. Clients love that it's free. When I told her she loved me, so also win-win. Good, Jane. 2 years free business banking with the banks that link to FreeAgent for free works well too. And no worries, Patricia, not a trouble at all. Cool. Okay, I think we've got everybody's had enough time for that, so we shall move on to the meat of the session. So we're going to break this into sort of 3 or 4 different topics, and we will get cracking now. So I am going to take a fairly back seat on this and let Penny and Philippa chew the fat and bring this whole thing to life. So the first sort of question that we're going to kick off with is how did the Wild Bookkeeping brand come to life? So I know that we're going to talk more about the evolution of it as we go through, but if you could give us a sort of few minutes on the original process and and how that worked from a highlights perspective, that would be grand. And I think we'll start with Philippa. I think that's okay.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's about 3 years ago now, and Penny came to me. She was thinking about her business. There was definitely a sense of wanting to grow and develop. She was quite conscious that the name of the business was Penelope Allard Bookkeeping, and she felt that she wanted to really think about that and take a back seat and maybe have another name that kind of spearheaded the business, so that in time she could take a back seat, take on a team, and obviously there was a sense of kind of wanting that professionalism there as well. But I think, and Penny will be able to tell this story as well, but the conversation was going on famille, and it was like, what's the name of the business, how are we going to do this? And I think it was generally decided that after a while Penny required some support on that. So when she came to me, we talked about this and talked about how I work with bookkeepers, and that's about the kind of doing a lot of in-depth exploration around that person's life, around their motivations, around how they've got to where they are today, and that requires really sort of going all the way back to understanding. Remember, I talked about the human side of business and brand, so that's what I'm all about. So we spent quite a bit of time doing that soul searching, really, and understanding how she got to where she was and what that meant for her business, and how we could create that brand story that then translated into everything else. When I talk about a brand story, I don't just mean that sort of personal side, but injecting the DNA of that person, but allowing there to be a brand that is out there and that can create those inspiring dialogues with prospects. So that's how it all started. Penny came to me. She didn't feel very confident at the time. How things have changed. Look at her now. She's just been a finalist at the Accounting Excellence Awards this week. But she wasn't always like that. And I think it's really important to say that to those people who are on this webinar. Not all, that success story has come through kind of internal investigation, exploration, and the confidence is now there with Penny because she's absolutely clear about who she is, where she wants to go, and the business. So I'll leave Penny now to kind of just talk a little bit about what was going on in your head before we talk about how we got to Wild Bookkeeping.
Yeah, I think definitely. So Penelope Allard Bookkeeping Services was really formed with no thought whatsoever. As I said earlier, I was teaching. It was just a friend that had a backlog in bookkeeping in their business. Would one of my students help out? And I was like, Isabella's got some ballet exams, needs extra classes coming up. So it was really, I knew I had to register with HMRC. I needed to get AML supervision, chose ICB, and it's, everybody wants to know what the business is. Well, I don't know, Penelope Allard Bookkeeping Services, I guess. So there was absolutely no thought went into it whatsoever. And that worked fine for a number of years. There was no problem with that. But as the business grew, I realised, particularly as I'd been through my divorce, my business was going to have to become my pension plan. So when I first started out, this was just very much a hobby business, paying for the ballet lessons and the swimming lessons. And it was now going to have to become a proper business that was robust, that would stand on its own. In addition to that, my daughter decided she wanted to take on my maiden name. She was graduating as a doctor. It's quite cool because she's now Dr. Martins. So yeah, Doc Martins is her now family nickname. And I said, well, it's fine, but I'm known professionally as Allard. I need to really build a strong brand and be known as something else before I can change my name. So we're kind of partway through there at the moment. If you find me on LinkedIn, I'm Allard. If you find me on Facebook, I'm Martins. And I've got the paperwork to do the official change on my desk. I just need to find the time to get that sorted and send it off, and then it will be Martins. And certainly now, Wild has achieved that that objective. I was at a networking meeting recently, and somebody went to introduce me, and they saw, this is Penny, and then they hesitated and said, I can't actually remember your surname, but I just know you're Wild. So this is Penny Wild.
Penny Wild.
So, yeah. So, my brand, and actually it was Jem from FreeAgent mentioned to me, I think it was last year when I bumped into her at DAS, and she said, I saw something the other day with a wave on it, and it just made me think of you. So now the brand is strong enough that people just know me as Wild, or the Wild Bookkeeper. They see a wave and they automatically think of me. So the brand has now replaced that name. And from a person, we did spend a whole summer trying to come up with a name for the business, and it was either something that was too cheesy, it had been taken already, the initials,
a big problem, right?
Didn't really work. A huge problem, or I'd come up with something and the kids, Mum, you really can't do that. That means something completely different these days. And, so I always get a teenager to check out your, the name
run it past,
run it for a teenager first. So, it was really difficult. And then I just thought, we're always telling business owners that, they might think they can do their own bookkeeping, but actually if you put rubbish into a software and just press OK because the software says it's OK, you're quite likely going to get rubbish out. And there's huge value in employing an expert. And I realized we were spending hours and hours of my time, which is valuable, and my business was growing. Time is a precious resource. And I thought, I need to take a leaf out of my own advice and actually just go and find an expert and somebody that knows what they were doing. The return on investment, it was a huge investment for me at the time. I can remember having that initial meeting with Philippa and thinking, I really, really want to do this. I know this is the right decision for the business. But then sitting down and thinking, oh gosh, this is a huge investment for me. And I remember when I first started, the first piece of software I invested in was Centre Practice Management software. It was just me, one user, £29 a month, and that seemed a massive investment. I look at my software bill now. That would be a walk in the park. I'd love it to be £29 a month now. So as you grow, things change, and the investment in Philippa felt like a huge step. But the difference it's made to my business, the confidence it's given me, the marketing potential, the new clients I've gained, the growth that we've seen, it was well worth it. So definitely we have to take a leaf out of our own book and make that investment in ourselves and in our business. So it was something we were just struggling to do on our own, and it's made a huge difference.
So do you think that when you fill out
my confidence as well?
Do you think when you fill out those forms to change your name that you might consider putting Wild as a new middle name?
It's very tempting, yeah.
Yeah, I bet, yeah. Penny Wild.
Like Leah Turner, isn't it? She put rainbow in the middle so she could have rainbow as her LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, I saw that. So LinkedIn couldn't tell her to not use an emoji. Yeah. Indeed, yeah. Thank you. I think that's a really important sort of scene set, and that process, I guess, is as we sit here, I think 3 years on, right? So that's obviously been an evolving process that's happened, as we've done that. So if you could talk us through, what's kind of happened over that 3 years and sort of what you've noticed in terms of the way that people interact with you, like clients. How has the brand, you know, come to life, and what have you seen take place over the course of those 3 years?
It's made a huge difference.
We'll start with you, Penny, and then we'll come to Philippa for her reflections as well, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's made a huge difference. So when we first came up with the brand, so Philippa, we'd had a long discussion. It's a bit like going to a therapy session, and anything that you say to Philippa, it's why. But actually, it really did capture the essence of me, and I think that's really important, because I was trying to be, when I was Penelope Allard Bookkeeping Services, I'm not sure what I was trying to be, but there's this idea of what I thought people expected a bookkeeper to be. So you're trying all the time to be something that you're not. And doing the work with Philippa means that Wild really does capture the essence of me. And before we signed off on it, I showed it to some friends, and I showed it to some clients that I, really know and trust, that are long-standing clients. And I think that's important, actually, because your brand, you want it to appeal to your ideal client. Family and friends might not like it, they might not get it. It's your ideal client that it needs to appeal to. But everybody I showed it to, they were just like, wow, that's really captured you. That's completely you to the core. And having that brand, because it is me to the core, it's actually enabled me to be me. So it's ironic in a way. When I was Penelope Allard Bookkeeping Services, I was trying to be something else. And now that it's Wild Bookkeeping, it's given me that power to actually be me and to be myself. And I think that's a huge confidence boost. We all have imposter syndrome as business owners, and are we good enough? Social media tells us that everybody else is smashing it. And, I've just spent 2 days on an accountant's retreat with other members of Jerry Williams' Accountants Wealth Academy. And actually, you sit 20 of you down around the table, and actually you've all had a rubbish month and nobody knows what they're doing. And we're all experiencing the same problems in our business. So having that confidence just to be me and not to pretend to be something else has been incredibly powerful. And, it's made a huge difference and trajectory to what I can do for my social media. It gives me structure as to what I need to be talking about online. Everybody's always worried. There's that, you don't see it quite so much now, but there's this thing, is it LinkedIn or is it Facebook, and what can you talk about? This has given me a structure. And it's given me a way to put me and the essence of who I am into my LinkedIn. And I can remember, somebody once said to me, your social media, you put so much of yourself on there. I don't really want to share anything personal. Well, trust me, there's loads about me and my life that doesn't go on social media. But my brand gives me a framework and a structure as to what I am going to share and what I need to share, because I just need to share enough to get my values and my personality and what's important out there. Now, that's what you need to share, so that people know who they're working with and what's important to you.
Do you know, it's funny. So, like, in my previous incarnations, I've spent most of my time as an implementer, so training accountants and bookkeepers on the use of software within our space. And the question that I always get asked when I used to do these training sessions, we do the training session and I'm fine, whatever questions, is it going to work? Is it not? Get to a good place where we've got full knowledge, and then be clearing up at the end, just putting the thing away, and most of the people are gone. And the person that I'm, dealing with would say to me, not every single time, but quite frequently, how are we doing compared to everybody else? I feel like we're miles behind. And it was like the same question, it's slightly paraphrased across so many different practices. And, and the reality of it is that, those challenges that you talk about, where they've all practices got the same challenges. There's only actually I was talking to Martin Bissett a little while ago, and in his belief is there's 11 challenges that an accountancy or bookkeeping firm faces, and that they are just different at whatever point of your growth you're at. So if you've got 8 employees, then that's different to 800 employees, but essentially you've still got the challenge of pricing. It just looks different. When you start to break it down like that and realize that you know, that you're probably ahead in a bunch of areas, but there's probably areas that you find difficult that other people, maybe their business model is set up to make that bit slightly easier. And actually, you know, I think, you know, I don't run a business, but I've heard it said so many times, it's a lonely place when you're running a business, right? And trying to find other people who are in that same boat. And that's one of the things that's nice about our industry, is that sort of, there is that collaborative sort of mindset, I think, especially now when, you know, technically you're competitors, but actually there's 5.5 million businesses in the UK. So there's plenty of pie to go around. I saw a stat yesterday on LinkedIn that 42% of accountants are turning work away, or bookkeepers are turning work away, because they just don't have the staff to be able to service it. So that's another thread for another day. But Philippa, your thoughts on that sort of evolution over time of how you've seen Penny's brand kind of developing from your perspective? I think it'd be really useful.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the 3 years ago, as we said, she wasn't very confident. And then we worked through the process and came out with her brand blueprint, which is very much a briefing document for her and any other supplier. So it's almost like, this is what I'm all about. It's her brand book, essentially. And from that moment, it was then, you know, stepping into that. And that takes a while to sort of get used to it. Although Penny, I think, threw herself into her marketing and her social media pretty quickly. But I think once you've gone through the process and you're excited and you're clear and quite confident, then that changes and you do begin to step forward. I think I always joke with people and say that, you know, Penny's become the sort of the monster that she is, in the nicest way, because she has embraced her brand and used it in so many ways day to day that it has given her you know, a huge boost. So I mean, I know that she won a client quite recently, in fact, because she had the tide times behind her on her wall, and she was talking to this prospect, and they suddenly said, "You've got tide times behind you." You know, that we love that. We that's just how we work, and it was almost like holding that mirror up. So, you know, she's starting to have those conversations, meaningful conversations with the types of clients she should be having, and I think generally she's just grown to understand how you use a brand. And, you know, you can use it in your recruitment, you can use it in the job spec. I know Penny very much uses it. She has her values, that's part of it. We sort of talked about her values and her ethos, and she certainly uses that in the recruitment process, in terms of, you know, talk about the values and what it means to them and how it impacts the business and how that influences the service that she gives to her clients. So, you know, it's a living, breathing document, which I think Penny has amazingly well sort of taken that on board. And we get to sort of 3 years later and she's talking, you know, to water companies, because, you know, it's always been about water, it's always been about swimming, it's been about sailing, you know, it's about getting out there every day, as we all know, on the social media. But it's more serious as well. You know, she's all about water quality and making sure that the sort of environmental topic is covered there. And now she's, you know, sort of having conversations with different types of people, even outside of the accounting space, which means that she's becoming well known elsewhere. She's living and breathing her brand. So it's not just a name, it's not just a logo, but actually it's giving her the impetus and the inspiration to really kind of branch out. And I think Penny can obviously talk a lot more about the kind of conversations she's having with those types of people. But it's just showing how you can build your brand and you can build your business to be anything you want it to be, once you have that kind of that story and that ethos and that belief behind you. So that's
definitely
the important bit.
Go on, Penny.
Yeah, I think particularly with water, so sustainability has long been a personal value of mine, long before we formed Wild 3 years ago. But again, because I hadn't really understood the process, and there's this divide of my business and personal life. So when we first formed Wild, and I got T-shirts printed with my logo on because I love my logo, and there's a lot of symbolism in the logo as well. I used Rapa Nui because that's a sustainable clothing company that produces things as it's needed, and you can send the clothes back to them from recycling. So sustainability has always been there, but because I started doing my videos in the water and swimming, that got me talking about water quality issues, you know, which is hugely topical at the moment. And because my brand puts lots of my own personal values and things in, I can talk about that. So I now have a platform on my social media where I can talk about the things that are important to me. Having had those conversations and posting about water quality, that actually got me an invite locally. So we had a fantastic initiative set up by Daniela Boone, a local swimmer, and our MP. And we now have quarterly water summit meetings, which involve Anglian Water, the council, Environment Agency, DEFRA, and getting everybody in a room together and just brainstorming what are the issues, why are we still getting sewage pumped into the sea? And I mean, that could be a whole another webinar. I could talk about that for ages.
We did in the preamble, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, but that's sort of that's put in a local forum. It's introduced me to other local business owners who were equally passionate about sustainability and the environment. As a result, that got me an invitation to speak on a panel on sustainability at Accountex North. Since then, I've spoken at FAB, at Accountex London. So being able to not just let's do a profit and loss or a balance sheet, it's given me other opportunities. And we've actually got something really exciting happening with the Water Summits, which I can't announce until the 1st of November. But close. We've got a really exciting project coming on that, which is going to be hopefully massive and make a really big difference to things on a national scale. And so having my brand has given me those opportunities to do things which are, you know, very different. So sustainability wasn't in those initial brand values, but that's something which I'm now looking to, you know, do some more work with Philippa to evolve that further. And certainly, as Philippa said, with recruitment, we've just recruited a new member on the team. And we did a 2-interview process. So the first interview really was, are they going to be a good fit? Are they the right person? Do they share our values? And then the second interview was a technical interview, because really, I need somebody that's going to share our values. As your business grows, you want to make sure that your clients have that same experience, the same customer service, the same journey. And I need to replicate me. I need lots of pennies working in my business. So I need to make sure that people share the same values as me. So, you know, I'm able to use those brand values. We've locked it down. We know what those are. And now I need to add sustainability onto that as well. So your brand and your values do evolve as you go through time. It's not a static thing. But I think if you have a good, solid foundation on that brand, that gives you a platform, you know, that you can grow on as well.
So for those of you, when we arrange these webinars, we have a call beforehand just to make sure we're all comfortable with you know, the tech and how that works, because we're using a new platform now, and also just to sort of chat through what we're talking through today to make sure that we get into all the gold. And when we had that call, Penny was sat in her beach hut, and we got talking about the tides, and we sort of kicked around the idea of, well, it'd be really nice to have Penny's camera sort of facing out to sea and have Penny coming out to sea after a wild swim. But the tides didn't align, as it would have been a 1.5 mile walk. So I think Philippa and I might have been waiting some time for her to arrive, and we just seen her coming through on the horizon. So, you know, she very much does live those brand values. And I'm interested. So do you do the sort of the values fit interview first and then the technical interview second? Is that right?
Yes.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So that's the first one feels like we can't really coach this to you, but the second one, if they came in and you wanted them as a manager and actually they were more of a senior, then perhaps you can coach the skills and, you know, bring them in at the right level rather than it being a kind of a yes or a no binary thing. So I guess that's sort of saying that the values are, you know, obviously more important than what technical level you're at, in terms of, obviously you're going to hire for where you need to hire for, but that's fascinating. I'm conscious of the fact that time is disappearing fast from us. So the third sort of topic and idea that we'll just kick around as we wend our way towards midday. So practically, how do you translate that into your marketing activity? So we talked a little bit about it, but I love this idea of kind of like when you first created the Penelope Allard bookkeeping services, that was your name, right? So that's you as an individual who was offering that, and then obviously over time that became, you needed to evolve that, and then obviously while bookkeeping was born. How do you feel about the sort of separation of it going from having been your name to then being the name of the business that you then filter into? Did that feel like it gave you a bigger platform to push these marketing activities out there in terms of your social and other things that you do? Like how did that sit with you?
I think it does. So interestingly, on Instagram, I've got three Instagram pages. I've got my personal Instagram, which actually I'm not sure if I can remember the login to anymore. I have to admit, since I've been doing more business social media, I've stopped doing personal social media so much. I think your private life needs to be very private, and I've got lots of people I'm now connected to on social media that I've met at various events, and I want to stay in touch with them, but I don't necessarily want to share everything. Yeah. And I'm very conscious that, social media is a massive platform. But on Instagram, my other two channels I've got on there, one which is where I put all the sort of business posts and my bookkeeping tips, which I do every week, that goes onto my business page. The other page is set up as a business page, but that's called The Wild Bookkeeper. So I've got at Wild Bookkeeping and at The Wild Bookkeeper. And that's more me with my personal brand. So that's where I can put endless posts of sunsets on the beach. My children tell me I'm up to, I think it's 25,163 sunset photos. But I can put videos of swimming, videos of sailing, my sunset photos, all of that sort of thing goes onto the Wild Bookkeeper page. So that sort of keeps that separate. Although there's a huge overlap, because actually the more I've started posting, the more I've got known for my swimming and my videos. And certainly at the Accounting Excellence Awards, we got a huge cheer, even though we didn't win. And it made me realise just how well known we are across the industry. And the number of people I had coming up to me afterwards and talking about swimming, or they want to come for a swim with me, or, can we be in a video, or I really love swimming, do you actually do it all year round, or how does this work? Or somebody approached me in the hotel yesterday morning at breakfast and said, oh, you're Penelope, aren't you? You post about sailing on LinkedIn. I'm a really keen sailor. And then we had a conversation about sailing. And that happens in the industry, but the same thing happens when I go to networking events with other business owners as well. So,
and this is the power. This is really the power of brand, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, because we're looking for connection, we're looking for human connection, and actually, if the brand starts conversations and if it's recognisable, then you've done the job essentially. And all the rest, a bookkeeper, an accountant. Hopefully if they're worth their salt, then they can do all of the sort of nuts and bolts, the practical stuff. But it's actually connecting with your clients and with your prospects that's massively important, because it's still quite a scary area for business owners to kind of, broach the sort of finances, etc. And you're going to be looking for somebody who inspires you and who feels much more human and more relatable. And just from hearing that, lots of cheers at the awards, lots of people coming up to her, that's because the brand speaks to them and it's recognizable, and there's something, it's created an emotional response, and that is worth a lot, certainly in business.
I came across the concept recently of something called cued recall, which is this idea of as we wend our way through lives, we're obviously remembering things, but we work well when we sort of remember things with one very specific label, so that when I think about sustainability or swimming or all the stuff that you kind of stand for, Penny, that your label will be that, and people will go, oh, I remember, I can go and find that, that's fine. Whereas if you're somebody that doesn't kind of have that label, then you're instantly 10 times less memorable than people who do have that one specific thing that they either talk about or they're known for. Then I guess the brand is bringing that into being something visual and something that you can almost kind of touch and feel, right? So yeah, it's an interesting
I think
concept.
as well, just from a networking perspective as well. I mean, people find this quite hard to believe, but I am actually a very shy person. I find walking into a room full of people quite difficult, and I find making small talk quite difficult as well. But actually, having my brand, I have a topic to talk about that I can talk about that isn't business, and it's not work, and it's not boring. And I think I see so often people, you know, particularly new practices that are starting up, and they're like, where do I find clients? And you say, go networking. And the idea of going networking terrifies them. And what frightens us is going full of strangers and trying to think, well, what do I talk to them about? What do I say to them? And actually having a strong personal brand, you know, anybody that meets me knows that I can talk to them about swimming, sailing, sustainability, 3 S's, there we go. And so people can walk up to me and they can say, oh, you're the person that posts about sailing, or you're the person that talks about swimming, or you know, you're the one that knows all about water quality. So that's a topic that people can talk to me about, and business owners aren't going to walk up to me and say, oh, yeah, you know about finance, don't you? Could you explain my profit and loss to me? Or could you tell me about my tax bill? When they don't know you, because that trust isn't there. So having that strong personal brand, it means people, you know, so I actually had a conversation with somebody at the ICB Inspire Tour recently, and we sat down, and it's someone that is on social media a lot. They often like and comment on my posts, but actually they sat and joined us at the table for lunch, which was lovely. But the conversation faltered because actually I didn't know what to say to this person because I don't know them. And, you know, and so we sort of had this conversation that you need to inject something about you. You don't have to tell everybody everything about your life. You don't have to share your kids or their names or what schools they go to, but there needs to be something about you that people know is a topic that they can talk to you about. And that just makes that connection so much easier.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's not just Penny. I mean, I had a client message me the other day and say it's the best investment for 23, 24 that they've made, because people just come up to her all the time and say, I just love your brand. And it's a conversation starter, isn't it, essentially?
And it's quite unique, right? I can't think of any other brands in our space that even cross over a tiny bit, really. So that I think would help as well. So my networking tip, people find this strange about me, but I'm this sort of weird combination of, like, on the one hand, quite extroverted, and people think conversation and socializing comes very naturally to me, and I think I get that from my father. And on the other hand, my mother is kind of quite a natural introvert, so I have this weird sort of like battle within me around, like, oh, go and be out, you know. And sometimes I'm fine, usually when I know people, that's great, but being in a room of complete strangers is, I find, just as, I think, the same as most people do, like, not particularly an environment that I'm drawn to particularly. But the one that I often use is find someone that you can go and say thank you to something for. So someone that did a talk, or someone that, you know, like, just something. And if you go up to someone that you don't know with a thank you, usually that's a good starter. They're normally talking to a bunch of people, and then once you're off, right? That's normally kind of how it works. That's one I found that's quite useful. I'm conscious of the fact that we are getting quite close to time, so what I would like to do is to just kind of open the floor up to both of you, but we'll start with Philippa on this one, to just talk about anything else that you kind of wanted to cover that you think our audience would like to know about this process, or the benefits of it, or anything that you feel would be useful to cover that we haven't covered yet, that we would like to before we run out of time.
Yeah, well, I think one of the big conversations is around AI at the moment, isn't it? And I think a lot of people see AI as a kind of a godsend for marketing. And I think it's a good start. What I would want to say is that the work that I've done with Penny and with other clients, you know, creating that brand blueprint is absolutely perfect. It is your algorithm, essentially. And, you know, if you start to use AI, ChatGPT, whatever, you can plug in your blueprint, and in fact, it will start to create posts, etc., based on who you are. Because essentially, you know, when you talk about AI and it's the quality of the brief that gets that's done. Well, actually, this is a brief. It's a briefing document. So put in,
I actually use that advert that I put through. So I have my brand values in ChatGPT, and so I then put in there, write me a job description, and a job advert for a bookkeeper who's qualified and experienced, that embodies our brand values, and that, you know, did the job really quickly. So
yeah, I mean, I've said to ChatGPT, write me a homepage for an accountant, and then I've actually plugged in a client's blueprint, and it's dramatically changed it, because what it does is, because it says, what do you offer, who's the ideal client, you know, what's unique about you, essentially it pulls all of this out and directly targets those and uses the language that you've got in your brand blueprint. So it's a win-win. You know, it's essentially, there's a lot of soul searching, and it really works day to day in your business to make decisions, etc. But you can also take it forward into the future with your technology and AI and all of that good stuff, which essentially means that you are living and breathing your brand, whether it's kind of manual or sort of, you know, technology wise, which I think is fantastic and good news for everybody.
I think AI is obviously a hot topic, as has been for the last year, 18 months or so, and it always comes back to, you know, that same phrase we sort of kicked off early with, which was garbage in, garbage out, right? So if you don't know how to use it, then it's just going to pump out generica that you know, that we can sort of find in other places. I'm seeing a post the other day from Jason Stats, and he'd addressed it to, he said, to the 5 real people left in my comments, or something along those lines, you know. And you start to read through comments on LinkedIn, this is all a 2-paragraph summary of it, and of the thing, of what's up there. So it's nice to hear of examples where it's been pointed in the right direction, and there's actually sort of like amplifying what you're able to do, and sort of taking some of the heavy lifting out of it, and, you know, and you're using the human touch or the human flourish to just bend it at the last point into the direction that you're going in, rather than having to do a complete rewrite of anything because it didn't understand the context. And, you know, that's always the challenge for AI, right, is the context as to where it comes from, the nuance that humans are able to bring, that is the challenge to get AI to replicate, right?
Exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, brand is all about consistency, and it's about being able to be consistent, having that DNA that runs through everything, even if it is running it through AI. You know, it's being you and being able to communicate you across all different channels and in different ways.
I think that consistency actually has been one of the major benefits, because anything that I post, people know that it's me. So, you know, if there's a graphic that goes out there, there'll be a water-based thing. You know, it's a picture of me on the beach, or it's a blue background with a wave running through it. So visually, there's consistency there, so that people can look at something and they know immediately that's me. They've come to, you know, wild home, you know, as such. And I think the same with brand voice. It's how you write and what you write about. People know when you're scrolling through social media, you might not see that it's me, but hopefully people read the post and they know that that's me. And if I look at something, I'm always got my phone out and taking photos all the time. If I think, I want to write about something, I want to write about a topic, I can then think, okay, how do I bring this back to my brand values? So provided when I write about, I don't know, buying an ice cream, going for a walk, spotting a pretty view, or, you know, or another sunset photo, if I can tie that back to my brand values, that then gives me the consistency, so that every post that you do, everything that goes out there, is actually being consistent and expressing that brand. So it gives you, it's the written side and the language side that gives you the consistency. So just as everything I post is in a shade of blue with a wave on it, everything I write is embodied with my brand values, so people know and recognize that. And I think particularly as we have got, you know, you can spot a ChatGPT post, you know, and the comments, you can spot them a mile off. And actually your brand voice, that's the thing where people know that actually this is really you talking. So
it's amazing how humans can just feel the lack of human connection when someone's written something or when they haven't written something, right? So I'm conscious of time. So we are going to wrap up the questions there. I've got a couple of other bits, so if you just want to just hang on for just 2 seconds. Our next poll is, again, if you're a bookkeeper in practice and would like to find out more about becoming a free agent partner, yes, no thanks, or I'm already a free agent partner and I'd love to hear from my account manager. I'll give everyone a few seconds to respond to the poll, and then we will wend our way through to the couple of recap bits at the end. And then we'll jump onto the demo. So that's great. So what was I going to say? I had something in my brain which has dropped out of my brain. That was what I was going to say. So while folks do the poll, Philippa and Penny, if you could just let people know where they can find you best, how they can get in touch with you, if they'd like to work with you in some way or other, how they best to get in touch, then I think that would be really useful for our audience, because I'm sure there's a few people sitting there thinking, I'd really like to bring to life my version of wild bookkeeping. So Philippa, if you want to just let people know where they can get in touch with you, and you want to put anything in the chat so that they can do that easily, you're more than welcome to.
Sure, great, thank you. So you can find me on LinkedIn, direct message me, that would be great. Or go onto my website, www.insight101.co.uk, and you can, in fact, set up a meeting with me there. Interestingly, I spoke to a prospect yesterday who said that they'd gone through the website and it did answer a lot of questions that they had. So go there, first of all. It will show you, the options, but for bookkeepers, the brand unique program, which is what Penny went through or experienced with me, is the best way of pulling together your brand. It's 2 parts. First part is, the what, who are you targeting, what makes you unique, etc. And the second part is pulling together your values and your vision and ethos, etc. That is basically the process we went through, and that's a good way of getting in touch with me if you're interested.
Perfect, thank you. Penny, yourself?
Yeah,
you popped your profile in the chat.
Yeah, I tend to spend most of my time on LinkedIn, so LinkedIn is the easiest place to get in touch with me. So you'll find my posts on there, or drop me a DM. And so I've put my LinkedIn in the chat. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to see more of the videos that I do while I'm swimming, we have got a YouTube channel. So if you search for Wild Bookkeeping in YouTube, most of the videos that I produce are uploaded and popped into YouTube. So we actually use and send them out to clients. So it's a good way of reusing that content. So yeah, if clients want to know how to, what's my UTR number and where do I find it, I can just send them a video. Or what's a trivial benefit, I can send them a video. So yeah, if you want to see more of my content, have a look at YouTube or connect with me on LinkedIn. Always very happy to have a chat to people.
Brilliant. So yeah, just as I mentioned earlier, if you'd like to go to our LinkedIn giveaway and win the stuff in the picture, then scan the QR code and go and do that. And then we just a quick plug for our partner community. So this has been growing nicely. We're up to about 250 members now. So if you would like to join the Free Agent accounting and bookkeeping community that's hosted by Lucy Cohen and Will Farnell, who are 2 of the most learned people in our space, love listening to them every month. For our bronze partners above, if you scan to join, then it will take you straight there, and you can jump in and enter your details, and we'll be able to push that in there. You get sneak peeks of stuff that's coming a bit earlier in Free Agent, and there's plenty of chat going on there, stuff, integrations, new product launches, and just lots of chat about what goes on in a practice. So that what we talked about earlier, the loneliness of running it yourself and wondering if you're doing it right and wondering where everybody else is at. That's a space for us to come together. Lucy and we'll run a monthly call, so there's a 90-minute call every month, usually around the 22nd, and we jump in, just talk about topical stuff. So sometimes it's recruitment, sometimes it's KPIs, sometimes it's I've got 6 staff and I want to hire a digital specialist, how do I go about doing that sort of stuff? And it's it's done by the members, so you can literally rock up with a topic, put it to them, and then we'll debate it for some period of time. So yeah, I think I've given everyone plenty of time to scan that one. So now nothing left on the main part of the webinar other than for me to say thank you. So a big thank you, obviously, to our panelists today. I've been really looking forward to this conversation. It's been really insightful. If you want to pop your love and appreciation in the chat box for Penny and Philippa, I'd really appreciate that, because I think it's been a brilliant session. Some other thank yous. So obviously, thanks to our audience. Apologies, I've run slightly over as usual. We'll have the demo, which will take a few minutes afterwards. So those of you that like to hang around with that, thank you to Ruth and to Mark and to Marianne and Georgia and everybody that puts this on from a free agent perspective. And thanks to our design team for all the cool fruit graphics that we have. And also just a big thanks to everybody that's come along today and contributed and listened. And I hope I'm sure you have all learnt plenty. Really enjoyed this session. It's been really good to talk about something that is not about the tech and far more about the people. I really enjoyed it. So again, big thanks to our panelists. I think they've been absolutely fabulous. I'm sure they have, and I would urge you to get in touch with both of them, because they are just as lovely off the screen as they are on the screen. So panelists, you're welcome to stick around if you would like to, but now is probably your appropriate juncture to drop off if you'd like. So thank you again, and for those of you that like to stick around, we will jump into the live demo session. So thanks very much.
Thanks very much for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Enjoy. Look forward to seeing you both.
Having had 3 days at the office, I need to jump into FreeAgent live and actually do some work. So.
Okay. Well, we won't hold you up.
So I might skip the demo and just jump in for real.
Sounds like a good plan. Sounds like a good plan. Right. Feel bear with me for a second, folks.
Cheers.
Wow. Bye. Thanks.
Okay. If you could just pop in the chat that they can see my screen with the FreeAgent dashboard on there. Appreciate that. Yes. Thank you, Ruth. Much appreciated. Brilliant. So just going to have just a few minutes, just kind of look and feel of FreeAgent. So I will need to refresh this because it will log me out because I've not been in there for a while. Cool. So this is the accounting dashboard. Nice green stripe across the top. If you don't get this when you log into FreeAgent, then give us a shout, because you're probably just logging straight into a client and we can help you to tidy up the admin. Few bits and pieces in here. So our alerts that have taken shape over the years. So you can pop these alerts in here, and FreeAgent will tell you when certain things are happening, like approaching the VAT threshold or director's loan goes above a certain amount. We improved the account manager stuff recently, so you can have account manager groups as well, which is really cool. Let's just something through here. I was talking earlier about the bank feed reconnections here. So mine's obviously a demo, but there's a nice big button there when you come through to here. It says update all your bank feed connections in one hit, all the ones that the client must update because they've expired by over 90 days. And I come back through to here, and we will switch into here. Also, anybody that's a FreeAgent partner already or isn't, I'd urge you to go and take a look at our integrations page as well, because we've revamped that. We've had loads of new integrations. We've had about a dozen in the last year or so, real key market players. So it's really helping people to make the decision to move to FreeAgent based on the rest of their tech stack playing nicely with it now. So when we log in, we're now in the blue striped bit of FreeAgent, which is the client piece of FreeAgent. So this is what our client sees, we can see as well. You'll notice the tax timeline for those of you that have seen FreeAgent before but not for a while. We've improved this quite a bit recently, so you can now mark things as filed. You can also remove through the settings. So if you don't want VAT to show up on there, or you don't want income tax reminders or corp tax or whatever it might be for certain reasons, and maybe there's some funniness in there that means that the calculation doesn't work out quite as we think it might do. Let's quick jump into banking. So just take you through sort of banking within FreeAgent. So obviously we've got our bank feed connected up here, and this just shows you how how FreeAgent deals with this. So if we've got an invoice here, then we can obviously match it up against the invoice that corresponds to that amount, and FreeAgent will help you with that process. We also have some AI that's programmed into FreeAgent as well, which allows you, so you'll notice we've got guess rules here. So guess is a function that will run on your transactions, and it kind of does two things. So it looks at what you've done in the past, and it will say, okay, so you've put, accommodation, you put, pret to accommodation and meals 3 times, so I'll do that again for you and do it without you having to do it and help. And it also looks at what all the people within FreeAgent do. So if 95% of people within FreeAgent put Network Rail to travel, then it will help with those types of common transactions as well. And what you'll see when you switch that on, or it will already be switched on, is you'll start getting these transactions that are here for approval, and you'll be able to approve those transactions and say, right, okay, we're happy with those, and FreeAgent's done up to 65% of the heavy lifting for you. So yeah, we're really proud of our sort of our AI machine learning engine and the work that it does for our partners. So quick look around reporting. So you'll notice that this has fleshed out quite a lot over the years. We've got a bank rec report, we've got an audit trail, and these performance benchmarks, which will say how you've done. How well you've done in your business and how well you've done compared to others in similar business types and similar areas, which is really cool. And we've also got smart capture as well. So this got mentioned several times as a key feature. So now within FreeAgent, you can take a picture, and then once you've taken a picture within FreeAgent, let's see if I can find one. Once you've taken a picture within FreeAgent, it will pull the data off the transaction, and it will show you. Let's just have a quick look at that. That's not right. It will show you what the transaction is, and then it will pull that data through into the transaction. So it'll attach it to the bank transaction that it finds that correlates with it, or it'll allow you to create an expense, but it just populates all that data for you automatically from the photo of the receipt. So it's just a quick whistle stop, and hopefully give you a nice look and feel of FreeAgent. And so we'll whiz through that because we are slightly over time, and then we'll just come to one final poll for those of you, the majority of you, who've stuck around. So if you final opportunity, just say yes. I would like somebody to get in touch with me from FreeAgent. So I'll just leave that up there for a little while to give everybody the opportunity to just say yes or no, and then we'll bring the webinar to a close. Thanks, Ruth. Thanks for all the links and everything. That's really helpful for everybody. Just looking back through some of the comments, just appreciate all the love, folks. I think it was Penny and Philippa were great. Really insightful, and the brand stuff is she's such a good example of how that's come to life, and she just lives and breathes it. So really cool. Just give everyone a few more seconds, see if there's anyone else that wants to come through, and then we'll close out. Okay, brilliant. Final thank you. Thanks ever so much, folks. I really hope you enjoyed it. And there's no pleasant way to end this other than me to click the button and cut everybody off. So have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you in and around the FreeAgent event soon. Bye now.